Welcome to Let's Talk TCI Real Estate, a show that is geared towards all things real estate in the Turks and Caicos Islands. It's always a pleasure to be in your home on a Thursday where we can talk about what's going on in relation to real estate in the Turks and Caicos Islands. As always, I invite you to like and share the page with anyone who you know is interested in real estate, that is purchasing real estate, knowing more about real estate, selling real estate, whatever the case may be. Please tune in, like, and share the page. And I'm going to invite you, please stay until the end of the show because I have two announcements I would like to make about upcoming shows that I think will be very beneficial to us all to learn more about, and I think you would really want to hear more about it. But just focusing a bit more today, the subject of our conversation on Let's Talk TCI Real Estate is about land transactions in the Turks and Caicos Islands. There are basically three property types of real estate in Turks and Caicos, and you're thinking about, the condo developments, residential homes, and vacant land. Today, we're going to focus a little bit more about the land. We've already done a whole deep dive on the residential aspect of single-family homes, but today we want to focus a little bit more on land, as we know that there are lots more people who are interested in this property type for so many reasons. In studio, I have with me, in the person of Miss Roselaure Forbes. She's also an agent and a colleague of mine at Keller Williams. She's no stranger to us because she has been on the show before, and it's a pleasure to be able to have another sit down with her. So welcome to Let's Talk TCI Real Estate again for the second time or the third time, Rose.
The fourth. This is my fourth time.
Is it the fourth time?
Yes.
Well, it's always a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you. It's always great to sit down with you and have a chat. I was just thinking about it. I'm like, wow, it's been my fourth time here. So I'm very excited to be here and to impart some knowledge to the people.
Great. So like you say, it's always good to have you here, and it's always good to have another person to be able to bounce ideas off, but also to share, like you say, as we share our wisdom one with another, just to talk about the subject of real estate that we both are passionate about. We are passionate about real estate.
Very.
Don't get us excited because we just don't want to stop
talk about
talking
it all day.
All day. So yeah. So today, like I said, we want to talk about land transaction in the Turks and Caicos Islands, and I believe that we should always start by just understanding where we have come from, where we are now, and how we are going forward. And so I would ask a question to, let's talk a little about how has the market evolved in terms of land and land transaction over the years in TCI. And I think a sub question to that will be, do you think that there is still a demand for land? So perhaps you can start and then I can chime in as we go along.
Okay. Well, definitely, if you live on the island or you're following our market here, you can see the drastic change in real estate demands on the island. And over the years, I've been in real estate since 2014 now, so 10 years. Doesn't feel like it.
It doesn't feel like it.
No, 10 years. So within those 10 years, I've seen the market just shift completely in a ways that the price of land, especially in Providenciales, have increased tremendously. We're looking at places where when I first started, I always used to tell people I had 3 pieces of land in Long Bay, over an acre for $50,000, and it was at that time, people weren't looking into Long Bay. So it took over a year or so to get interest on that.
Right.
But now if you look at Long Bay, you're looking at land, a quarter of an acre. You're looking at 160, 170, 175 and up. So definitely the prices of land and Providenciales has completely shifted upward. And we saw a change after the pandemic, where there is a huge surge of buyers nationally and internationally that became very interested. And I used to joke where I used to say that I think the reason it's happening is because YOLO, people realize I can die, so let me spend this money. We saw a splurge. We saw a lot of people came in high demand. Of course, we saw people that wanted houses and condos, but what we saw was a lot of people that were interested in investing their money, and they realized that raw land, especially in Turks and Caicos, is one of the best places to park their funds. Yeah. So we saw a lot of people that came in, and of course that also drove up the prices of land on the island. And since Provo at a point now where you're looking at Provo is kind of, certain people that are looking at a price point are completely priced out, so they're venturing to the other islands to find land at an affordable price. Affordable meaning anything under $100,000, right? So we saw people going into North Caicos, which is now booming with real estate, where most people are buying land in North, because there aren't as many houses and such, but people are just looking for affordable places to buy land, either to construct now, or to hold later for investment purposes, because people that invested in Provo 10 years ago are selling their land at a premium right now. So people are looking at that on the other islands too. So when you look at the way things are going, I think we're still going to have a high demand for land. One, because we have a high shortage of homes. When it comes down to what you can afford, and when it comes down to a home, we don't have many homes for sale on the island. So we're finding that people are still looking to buy, that are interested in either building an investment property or their forever homes. They're not finding what they need on the market because, well, there isn't anything. So those people are moving over to other places and other properties, other islands, to find land so that they can build. So as far as do we still have a demand, I think yes, we still have a very high demand for land. And the beautiful thing I'm seeing is that it's not only in Provo anymore. Because people are looking on the other islands too. Yeah,
I think you hit the nail on the head with several points that you actually touched on. You know, of course, when you're thinking about market, you have to think supply and demand, and of course that's what you talked about. I think the demand is still there. I just did, just in preparation for the show, I just did a number of stats, just going back even from 2009 up to current, just to see how things had progressed from that time to now. And what I see is that, like you've mentioned before, the price and value of land and sales volume count has increased year over year. But also what I found that was quite interesting is that there were more land sales based on the stats that I was looking at, even compared to single family homes. Now, there are instances where the single family homes may have outweighed the sales volume price of it. Price point, and that's because obviously they are priced higher, and that's where the price level is at. However, but when I looked at the unit count of how much land have sold compared to these other property types, I saw that for the majority of years, year after year, there were more land properties that were selling year after year. And I think that's a testament of there is still a demand for vacant land in the Turks and Caicos Islands, right? And I think even now, I think what constitutes that there's still a demand is that now people are buying land and subdividing them into smaller parcels. And that's because you can't find enough of it against supply and demand. And so now you're taking 1 acre lots and you're turning it into 3 or 4 lots because of the demand to have these parcels. So I think that the market has grown tremendously with vacant land, like you have also said. And I think it will only continue to grow for all the various reasons that you have pointed out. Non-availability of affordable homes, people who want to just invest and have it sit, all these various reasons. But it definitely shows and speaks volume for anyone who have not invested in land. If you do have an opportunity, then this is a vibrant opportunity that you should be looking into, because so far, and like I said, from 2009, it has been proven that buying vacant land is a really good investment opportunity for persons who are trying to think, where should I put my money? And we will talk a little bit more about other reasons why, you know, land may be a good investment choice as we go along in the show. But just all of that just helps to consolidate it all to say that land has evolved. And for those who are just sitting and thinking that we will go back to those original prices, it's not really going to happen, because we have already set, like the market standard is already set, and the prices of land has increased in value, and people are now beginning to see where it is a vibrant investment just to invest in vacant land.
Yeah, I think the times of us seeing $20,000 land in Provo is completely gone, you know, because there was a time where you can buy a piece for $20,000. You know, whether it's Millennium Heights or different areas, but you could. But even now, you're looking at, well, I think you're looking at 100 coming into the market in Provo. Depending on where you are, you're between 75 and 100. You know, the good thing is we still, when you go to North Caicos and Middle Caicos, we're still at under 100 in some areas.
Right.
So the prices are continuously increasing. You know, and there is nothing to say where we can see that it won't be, because land is one of the safest investments you can make, you know, because there's nothing you can do. It can't be destroyed. Right. Really, right?
Yeah. So. I just want to say one thing, and then that what you said about land being a safe investment, it brings me on to another question. But I just want to say, I just had a conversation with someone no longer than today who was looking for a piece of land. And of course, their property price point was roughly around the $30,000 mark. And I had to really explain to her how the prices of land have increased. And one of the examples I used with her is that currently you can't even find something in the Blue Hills area unless you're paying at least around $90,000. And to her amazement, she was surprised that even in the Blue Hills area, and we market with the Blue Hills area because we know that that's more of the affordable areas that persons normally fall to when they're looking for something of affordability. So when that affordability mark has increased, then we know that, okay, we have to be looking at a higher budget. But to the point where you're talking about the land, I would say, what are some of the perks of buying land versus a developed property? What would you say?
Well, for me, there are many perks. One of the main ones is that because we do not have property taxes every year, buying land is based, if you're someone who has the funds to buy something and hold on to it, right? You can buy a piece of land where you don't have to do any upkeep to it, and you can just let it there and let it sit there and appreciate. Right. When you're buying land, you're looking at coming in at a lower price point than you would if you were to be buying a home. Right, and also the stamp duty is much lower because if you buy land and you build a house on it, you're only paying stamp duty on that land. You're not paying stamp duty on the house that you're building. So you have that, and hurricane can't destroy it. It will sit there, and it doesn't matter the area. And on Turks and Caicos, we can all agree that appreciation is the only thing that you will get. Every year, your land will appreciate. And I've had people before where their land is in an area undesirable to them. And they're saying they don't want to buy it there, but they want to invest. Let's say you find a piece of land for $25,000. And of course, you're thinking, I wouldn't live there. Right. But if you're just looking to invest, I say buy that piece of land, because you may not want to live there, but somebody will. Yes. And you never know where that community will be in 5-10 years. Yes. Because that community can now be undesirable. I mean, once again, look at Long Bay, where people are like, I'm not going to live there. And now look at what Long Bay has become. That's where everybody wants to be. Out of 100 people that ask me about land, 60 of them want to be in Long Bay. Yes. So we're finding that the perks and buying land if you're not someone who wants to build, who wants to go to the bank, you can build out of pocket, depending on where you are. You can take your time and put your plans together, and then you can build what you want.
Yeah.
So for me, investing in land, if you're not looking for a place to live at the moment and you can afford to do it, have much more benefits for you as an investor if you can come in on the ground floor with land.
You know, one of the things you mentioned, and when you started speaking, you said about the stamp duty. I think stamp duty, like you said, brings a lot of value to a reason why someone may prefer to buy land over buying a developed properties. And even the developers see it, and that's why they have this module where you can even if you're buying a house pre-construction, where they allow you to pay the stamp duty on the land and not the finished product. And that creates a complete, like a huge savings for a person who is trying to get into the real estate market. I'm like, definitely. They can see it, and it's like, because that really makes a big difference when it comes to the stamp duty. You know, another thing I would say about, you know, a benefit of buying land is that one of the things we sometimes, I think, we take for granted is the natural vegetations that we have around us. And sometimes you get into these developed properties already that have been designed the way that person or whoever wants it to be. But when you start from scratch, like you say, you have that clean slate to build what you want to build, but it also gives you an opportunity to preserve the natural indigenous plants and flora, plants around you, and be able to capitalize, I think, better on a more sustainable, sustainable path in terms of home ownership and living. And one of the things I've had on my show before, Mr. Whalen, who was talking about green living, and I think a lot of people, more people are moving towards that, where we can use the natural elements in our design to help us to live more green and sustainable, right? And some people take that for granted, but I think it's a very big portion of what you can do. We know by planning laws that you're not supposed to clean down a lot completely, but a lot of people still do it. But I mean, if you are adhering to such rules and you want to be living a more sustainable life, I think having a vacant lot gives you that opportunity, because when you have already cleared down the land and you're already in a house, it's harder to now bring back that natural vegetation and that buffer that you need to help you in more sustainability.
Keep the shade. Sometimes when you bulldoze down the whole property, you find that it doesn't matter. It's always hot. Because there aren't as many trees around you. And of course, a lot of times people don't get that, like when times of hurricanes, those natural vegetations, even if the hurricane knocks them down, they come right back up. Whereas when you bulldoze and then you plant, you import plants and you plant those, a lot of the times you have to redo it because they would come right out. You know, so I find that, and some of these trees are so beautiful, and the flowers that blooms out of them, and you know, I always think it's much better to just keep the natural vegetation and just cut out where you're going to build your house, but then keep everything else around it, because it will protect it, especially in the summer heat like we have, and keeping the place cooler, where you don't feel that you have to run AC all day because you are living in a very hot house. You know, so you can find ways to build to your specifications to ensure that the longer cost of running your home is not as expensive. You know, just talking about this, I remember that recently that we had someone within the association who came to speak to us about the natural vegetation. Someone from the environmental club. I can't remember his name right now. But I think they're doing a very good deed where they are volunteering their service for persons who are about to clean up their lands. If they aren't sure about what are the good natural plants, where they will come and assist, and also to help to replant any excess, and help them to go in a holding place for anyone who would like to be able to get some of those plants. I think that's a really good thing, and just remembering that as we're speaking about it. I feel that everybody should take them up on that. Because not only will it help you, but it will keep your neighborhood beautiful no matter where you are.
Yes.
Yeah.
One last thing I want to say about, why I think one of the perks about buying land versus a developed property. You talked about the clean slate really before. You don't, but if you can start from scratch, sometimes it's better than inheriting any old issues or issues that other homes may have.
Yes.
Someone is living in a house. Sometimes you don't know what all problems may have been incurred with that.
Yes.
And sometimes it's very costly to remedy those problems if instead of just starting all over from scratch. So I think that's something people, they don't want the rental jobs. For some don't want it because of the cost of the renovation. Yep. We always think renovation is cheaper, but sometimes renovation adds up.
It adds up, and you end up building a new house regardless. So you might as well have built one from the ground up. When I first started, because I built instead of buy.
Yeah.
And when I first started, it was the same thing, looking at homes and thinking, all these homes we're seeing at such a high price that you have to put so much more money into it. You're buying a $400,000 home, but you're going to have to put at least $200,000 in it to make it into what you want.
Correct.
Whereas where you can take that $600,000 and build yourself a new house. I mean, it's not for the faint of heart. Construction is not for the faint of heart. But, at the end of the day, you end up getting what you want and end up getting your dream home and incorporate your ideas of what you would think your home would be into your own plans, which for me was like, at the end of the day, I was very satisfied with the end product.
Right.
So
even though we've talked about a lot of these benefits, just a little swing on this question, because we still will continue to get this question. What would you say to someone who is still undecided about buying a land versus buying a home? For me, I always think about saying to them, I think my first response is always weigh the immediate need of the individual. Because even though we have all these perks of vacant land, I always want to ask that person, what's your immediate need? Not want, but need. If you are a family with 4 kids or 5 kids, and you are being evicted from your home or from your apartment, then I would say, okay, you cannot wait for the next year to build something. Your need at this time is to get into a family home because this is what you want.
Yes.
And I think that's one of the first things I normally say to people, because sometimes I'm asking this question because as realtors, people come to us asking us to help them make up their mind as to what they should do. And that's not an easy task. And that's why I normally like to start there. Let's start with what your need, and then let's work our way into any other factors that may affect or impact your decision making. But that's how I start. What you say about?
I completely agree with you. I think it's down to what's that person need at the moment. If you're someone who is looking to invest and you decide that you want to now own your own home and live in your own home, and you have a place to stay and you're not in a hurry that I need to find something at the moment, I always say buy land and build from scratch. If you're someone who needs, like you said, need to get out, you need to get a house, you can't be homeless, then yes, I would understand that getting a home would be the better way to go. But like for me, even if let's say you can find a way to rent a place and build, because if you're not everyone, but the regular Joe Schmoes would have to go to the bank.
Yes.
Either way, the bank is going to take a long time to get you a loan, right?
Right.
The process to buy a house.
Are you saying the bank always takes long?
Oh,
go ahead.
This is another show.
Another show. But go ahead.
But the process to buy a home from the bank is much strenuous than the process to buy a vacant piece of land, right? So if I always say if you're undecided whether you want a home versus a house, versus land, sit down and think about what's your time frame for getting into a home? How much money do you have to start out with? And what is it that you want? Because if you find your dream home out there and you want to buy it, fine. But I always think that if you can build from scratch, and you can, like, let's say if you are someone who it's a single family, I've had people who buy a piece of land and they build and something to move into on the land while they finish the rest of the house. Yes. For me, I find that to be the best way to go, because you, of course, you're not living the most comfortable way while you're doing that, but then you're not paying rent. And you can inject all your funds into finishing the project and getting your home started. So it all depends. Some people don't like to do that because they want to have their space, and they don't mind going to the bank to get the process going, which works fine. But if you do have the time, and you're looking for something more towards your specification, then definitely buying land and building would be a better way to go, because you may even end up spending less than you would if you were to buy a home outright.
Well, just want to pause for a moment just to remind everyone, of course, welcome to Let's Talk TCI Real Estate. And if you do have a question or a comment, please feel free to put it in the comment section. Let us know where you're listening in from. Be a part of the conversation. If we can answer your question, we will definitely do so. We're talking about land transactions in Turks and Caicos Islands. So if you, hopefully your questions will be related to buying land, selling land, or just anything general questions that you may have. If we're not answering it within our conversation, please feel free to put it in. You know, one of the things, I think the last thing I would want to say on this point of what would you say to someone, I think it touches right on what you said before about your financial situation. You know, we are not all equally in the same financial stance. And I think that really plays a big part as to what decision we make. And you made a very good point about sometimes buying land is beneficial, because you could always try to build something and not be in the most comfortable position, but you will be able to grow and expand on that, and at the end get what you're looking for. And like you say, the construction is not for the faint of heart. But one of the things in that point I want to say is that I remember talking to an architect on the show before and a builder, and one of the things he said, a lot of times we feel that we need such huge homes, and when we don't really sit and really estimate the cost of what it's going to be. And so we need to be more conservative. Sometimes when we're building, we can get the same result with smaller footprints than just thinking we have to have a large footprint to be able to. But sometimes we can buy land and get into a smaller footprint and be able to achieve the same goal than looking to have this big old house and then we just can't afford it. So it's about seeing what your finance is all about and seeing how far that can get you. And I think, being able to find a land would be in most cases, a better choice. A better choice. Yeah,
I completely agree with you with the size of the house, because when you're looking at, we're building at what, $400 a square foot, $450 a square foot, that adds up.
Yes.
When you want that mansion, that 2-story house, that completely adds up.
Yes.
So starting small and building something that is comfortable for you and your family without having to be ostentatious about the whole thing, I think is a better route to go, and you can make your money work better for you.
Yeah.
One thing I want to say, if with the same undecidedness, if someone is undecided on whether they want to invest in land versus a home, I would go land. I would go land because it's something you can just buy and leave it there and not have to think about it. You know, if you're looking for a home to live, it's different. But if you're looking for a place to park your money, because with a house, there's going to be expenses and you're going to have to rent it out. If you're not looking to live in it, there's going to be a lot of spending over the years.
Yes.
But with land, you do nothing. If you are not looking to build on it, you just let it sit there to the point where you see the market is in a position where you now are okay with selling yours, then you can do that. You know, so for me, when it comes down to investment, land is always the better choice.
Right. So now that we're talking about, okay, land is a better choice. We are real estate agents.
Yes.
People expect our expert opinion where necessary to help them make choices. For persons who have not gone down this path of, you know, making a purchase before, whether land or house, but especially when it comes to vacant land, as it's more common among many of us, of course, like for the many reasons we have discussed, you know, what are some of the things that we think that we should you know, put out there, you know, as persons who are watching, to say, when you approach a real estate agent, these are some of the questions that you should ask them to ensure that you are getting a good bang for your buck, and to make sure that you are not being misguided in any way possible. You know, I would probably start, if it's okay, just by saying one of the main things I find, and I always want people to ask me as well, is, you know, what is the zoning of the property? And I think this is a big one, because people would approach us and say, I want to buy land. That's a vague question. You need to be able to know exactly what you want to put on it, so your realtor can help you to direct you to the right property. But even at that, when they have directed you to the properties that they think that is suitable for you, you as a customer must return the question to them and ask, okay, so what is the zoning of the land? Now, for us as real estate agents, we definitely have maps that will guide us, that we have received from the planning department, that can give you guidelines as to what the zoning on land is. So you, a realtor, should have some idea about the zoning of the land. And obviously, if the realtor don't know, they can direct you in the area of referring you to the planning department, and we can also apply for zoning letters from the department to be able to confirm what the zoning of the land would entail. And I think that is so important, because you don't want to just take word for it, but you want to ask the question so that you know at the end of the day, once you have made that purchase, that you can actually put the project that you intend to put on that particular parcel of land. Yeah. So and especially for persons who want to build apartments. That's one of the main things people are looking for these days, are apartments. And I always say to people, you definitely can put an apartment on a residential property, but then it's not just residential. You need to have what's the zoning of it, the density of it. Is it high density? Is it medium density? Because it allows more unit than more. Because sometimes they just think, oh, I have a residential lot, and then you're going to be putting 24 units on it. No, it doesn't work like that. It's based on the size of the lot, but it's also the density of it, and there are specific zonings that also can cater to apartments. So that's why I feel like zoning is very important for you as a customer to understand, to ensure that your project is in line with what you are buying. So if you are looking to purchase, make sure, ask your real estate agent, can you confirm the zoning of the parcel for me?
And I do find that happens as far as the apartment questions, because a lot of people, they they want to come in and be like, okay, I have $50,000 and I want to buy a piece of land. All right, so what you want to put in it? I want to put a home on it. But as you're looking for it and you're asking more questions, you come to understand that this home they want to put on it is home for 20 people. Like, they want to put apartments on it, not understanding that you can't put apartments everywhere. Right? Because in their heads, they're thinking, as long as it's a place where people can live, it's okay to have a huge complex on it. So when it comes down to agents, working with an agent and asking them about what is the questions you need to ask before you buy land. Zoning, definitely, it's a big one, because I do find that a lot of people are looking to build rentals, which I am all for, because we need it. We are completely out of rentals, and whatever it is, it's expensive, and it's expensive because because demand is high and supply is low. So I'm all for building apartments, but you can't put them everywhere. All right, but with other questions that you need to find out, your agent can help you figure out what a good price point to put your offer in, because the land, what people don't realize is that the land is it's priced as a certain point. It's an offer. It's an asking price. A lot of the times, as agents, we try to price properties based on what has been sold in the area. However, sometimes there are properties that are priced a little bit higher than what has been sold in the area. And if you're working with an agent, then you can have that agent help you figure out the best market value for the property, so you're not paying a higher price than what has been recently sold in the area, unless there is a specific justification for that higher price. So having an agent that can do a market analysis for you to tell you, though this is listed at $200,000, but you can come in at an offer of $160 or $170, depending on where you see the market at, instead of offering the exact price. Of course, some people, I've worked with people that are like, I don't want to deal with that. That's what they want. That's what I'm giving them.
Yeah,
I love those people. But
yeah,
but of course, there you can do your agent can do their homework to help you come up with a better price point, because you don't know until you ask.
Right.
You may think the person won't take that price, and they end up taking it. And of course, once you put up a price out there, you can put justification as to why you're offering that price, depending on the analysis that the agent has done for you.
Right. I think it's also, like you say, a good point about that is expectation. If you have a customer who's making an offer, they would know what expectation to reach, what would be returned, received to them. So if they put an offer out there, and the owner comes back and say, no, I don't want this, I want this, and they would have something to be guided by.
Yes.
And then they will be able to say, okay, well, this is in line with the last sales that have happened, so I could understand where he's coming from.
Yes.
And then if they realize that, okay, the price that the owner has come back in is far above what the compared values are, then they can make a conscious decision if they are prepared to go as high as the owner is asking for.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, they would not feel as someone has duped them into trying to spend more than what something is worth, if they would have those comparable sales prices to be able to compare it with.
Yes.
You don't want to ever walk into anything blindly just saying, what would he take or what would she take? But I think it has to be fair on both sides of the coin, both for the seller and the buyer, to know that whatever is being offered, the price is in line with what the market is. And then, like I say again, they can make a conscious decision if they want to go above what that is all about.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the other things that they need to ensure to ask is, as far as if there are any restrictions on that land.
Yes.
You know, your agent will be able to get that information to you, even if it's not something that's listed on the listing where there are a restrictive agreement in place.
Right.
But you can get that information.
Yes.
Because you may want to put a two-story house on there where you're not able to.
Yes.
Or you want to do a large family home where you can only put a townhouse on the land. The restrictive agreements that give you a restricted amount of time to build. So you always want to make sure that you get the restrictive agreement if there's one available. And that's one of the questions you can make sure to ask your agent.
Yeah.
The agent more than likely will let you know that, but as part of your due diligence for yourself, you always want to ask that question, depending on what you want to do. Is that something that you are going to be able to do?
I like that word that you use, due diligence. Sometimes people feel like the realtor should do all the due diligence or the attorney should do all the due diligence. But I think as customers, we have a duty to also do due diligence on whatever we are buying and whatever we are buying or looking to buy. Yes. And so you're right on that. So don't just assume that we as realtors would have conveyed this information. And we have to also remember, whenever we have an opportunity to sell anyone's property. So you may not know, I may not know all the details on Rose property. Rose may not know all the details on my property. It doesn't mean we cannot get the information, but we as purchasers have to ask the questions so to ensure that our agents get this information in the event this is something that have been missed.
Yes.
You know, and just
Definitely.
talking about that, I feel that one of the other things, I think a question that is very, people don't really think about all the time, but I've said this so many times on the show, you know, just verifying with agents if a property have been surveyed up to government standards. And I've said this so many times, especially for right now when North and Middle Caicos is becoming so popular. You want to ensure that if you are buying properties in those areas, one of the questions you want to ask is this property up to government standards? And when I say that, I mean that it has been surveyed, boundary markers are in place, it has a J number, and you'll be able to move on with the sale in a quick manner.
Yes.
Now, most properties in Provo, they have been sold and resold and surveyed and resurveyed, but now that we are getting into that meat of a lot of generational property or properties that have been just sitting for years and nothing has now just been subdividing, you want to make sure that those properties boundaries are up to government standards, and you can be able to sell this property right away, because that means that if it's not the government standards, you either have to buy it as is, or it means that you have to wait a few months down the line for this to now be done, and you may not be prepared to wait all of this time for it to be sorted out for you to be able to close on the transaction. And like you said, restrictive rights, right-of-ways, you want to make sure. Sometimes people want to buy on land and they don't even know, okay, how am I going to access, where's the road parcel? And it's not just enough to know that you see the, you drive physically on it. But you have to
assume that you have the right to that road when you're completely landlocked. And not realizing that because you've been driving over that road for so long that you think it's the registered on title when it's not. And I think a perfect example is sometimes we see a beach access. We've been going to the beach through this access for years, and we just automatically think it's a public beach access. And really you're actually passing through someone's land. So it's the same concept here. If you're buying a parcel of land, you need to ask your real estate agent, hey, where is the legal access? So we can know how are we accessing our property and how are we accessing any additional like beach accesses or anything that we have access to. So I think we've had I think we've mentioned a few things, like you said, just knowing what's the sale data for price comparisons, understanding what the survey is all about, understanding what the zoning of the property is about, understanding of any right-of-ways or restrictive agreements. These are all questions that if utilities are in place in the area, or is that something that's going to be at a cost to you once you build, because we understand that not everywhere has power and not everywhere has water. You know, I always say, you know, don't not buy a piece of land because there's no power there. Because what you're not realizing is that if there was power there, that property would be much higher in price. Right? Where you can buy it as is and just, you know, pray to God that the Fortis starts putting power in that area. Because I mean, look at a few areas in Long Bay now that has power that hadn't had power before, right? There are poles now. So you can do that, or you can, you know, with solar panel and all of that. So I would never discourage somebody from buying property because there's no power there. You know, water is different because, you know, cisterns, but because there's no power. But that's a question you can ask your agent. Is there any power there? Then you know what you're expecting. You know what the expectation is from you once you start building.
You know, one of the last things I want to say about this before we get on to another question is, even though it's so simple, as a buyer, you want to ask your real estate agent, does this property have freehold title or not? You know, some properties have freehold title, some properties are leasehold. You can sell a leasehold property, right?
But there are restrictions on that.
But there are restrictions on it. So these are things you would want to know, because all of these can hold up a sale transaction, and they may have fees or charges that are actually connected to it in order for the sale to go through.
Yeah, and if all those things are not ticked off, then you will never get clear title in that property. It doesn't matter if you wouldn't be able to pay the stamp duty, you wouldn't be able to do anything to get that property under your name until all these things are cleared. Yes. So it's working. That's why I always say, it's best to work with an agent, with a professional, just to ensure that those things are done up front, so you know what you're getting into. Some people don't mind waiting for all that to clear because that's what they want. They want that piece of land, and they don't mind if it takes 6 months or a year, they will wait. But some people will walk away once they realize what the implications are in buying this piece of land.
Yeah.
So it's good to have someone that's knowledgeable that can guide you through that and help you understand what you're doing and what you're getting yourself into.
Yeah. I just want to pause for a minute again, just to remind anyone, if you do have any questions that you would like to ask about real estate in the Turks and Caicos, and especially about land, please feel free to put it in the comment section. If you have one, we'll do our best to answer it as we talk about land transactions in the Turks and Caicos Islands. And Rose, I would say this, just so you're talking about, I mean, just all of this that we're talking about, it just came back to me just to remind people, our role as real estate agents is to ensure to help you through your real estate process. We have over 150 agents within the Turks and Caicos Real Estate Association. And I'm putting it out here to you. It doesn't mean that we are talking about real estate today. Of course, we will want you to use us as agents, but it doesn't mean that you can't choose from any of those agents. And the point of this whole conversation is, if you are looking to make a purchase, as being a part of the Turks and Caicos Real Estate Association, I know this is a little bit off point, but it's just something that came to me as I was speaking, as you were speaking about when you said something. Being a part of the Turks and Caicos Real Estate Association, we are guided by rules and regulations, strict rules and regulations that helps us to be accountable, right? And we are not going to misguide you, because if we do, you can report us and we can be held liable for misguiding you. I'm saying that because even of recent, I've had people who have come to me who have made purchases through persons, and they did not ask all of these questions, only to find out they have already given other people deposits on properties that they could not have sold to them. And this is happening more and more around here. It's happening.
Yes.
And so don't look at us as agents to say, oh, we're just thinking about making a sale. You can choose from 150 agents, whoever you are comfortable with, but use the real estate service.
Yes.
And there is no fee to you as a purchaser. We're not purchaser agents, so you're not paying our commission costs. So it doesn't cost you anything to use our services to be able to help you through the process.
Yes.
I mean, this is just something fresh. I just experienced this last week and the week before, where somebody contacted me. They have already made huge deposits to people, and they come to find out there are so many things wrong with the property that is being purchased. So I just wanted to stick that plug in as we're talking about it, just to remind people.
I've had that happen many times, where I've had people that come to me saying that they purchased this piece of land and they've already done this and they've already done that, and come to find out either that person can't sell them that land, or that land has charges on it and different things where title could never be transferred to them.
Yes.
And if they had gone with someone who knew what they were doing, then they would have bypassed all of that. So as you said, as a buyer, you're not paying us anything.
Yes.
For us to help you. And I'm a true believer and karma in what you put out there. And I would never give someone advice just so that I can make a sale. If I feel that that property wouldn't work for you, I will tell you it wouldn't work for you. I've had people that wanted to purchase properties in areas because of where it is, but because I know what they're trying to do, I would tell them, you know what, this is not the right property, but we can continue to hold and wait. If you're adamant about buying this property, I'm here to serve you. I will do it, but I will let you know that this is what I think of this property as far as what your goals are for this property. So if you're working with someone that you feel you're not comfortable working with, you can work with someone else. But always make sure you find an agent that can help you, that can guide you towards the areas and the things that you need, so that you can have a seamless transaction and you don't have buyer's remorse.
Yes.
Because you can buy something and not realizing later on that you cannot do anything on it, you know? So yes, I think definitely if you are interested in buying real estate, or even if you're thinking about buying real estate, you should contact an agent just to see where to go. Because even like as far as buying and going to the bank for a loan, you know how many I have daily conversations with people that don't realize that you don't have to be a member of a bank to get a loan from that bank. Like
Yes.
that, you know, when you're saying, you know, go to the bank and get a loan, and they're like, oh, I'm not banking with that bank. That doesn't matter. You can always go to any bank. You can, if you are interested in buying, I would say, or even if you're thinking about what would be the steps if I were to want to get into this, call an agent. You know, any agent would be happy to sit there and just guide you through the process. And then, you know, just keep you in touch with what's going on. If you're going to the bank, that will guide you to who to go talk to at the bank. And how to get the process started. You know, because if you're getting a loan from the bank, before we show you properties, we send you to the bank because we want to know how much you can afford, and then we go on that price range. Because I've had people that's like, oh, I want to buy a land, and I'm like, okay, so how much do you want to spend? And they don't know. I'm like, are you going to the bank? Yes, I'm going to the bank. Have you gone there? Do you know how much money the bank is willing to lend you? Oh, no, I don't want to do that yet. I want you to show me what you have, and then I can see if I can buy it. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
You know, if that's the case, we're going to be showing properties all day to people. So an agent can guide you through the process so that once you get a property, then you can go and buy it quick and easy, and you don't have to keep backstepping because you missed a step in what you were doing. And so now your investment dream of 6 months become 2 years because you didn't do the steps in the right way to get to where you needed to go.
Yeah. I think we do a good job at being advisors and consultants for free.
We do that all day.
Yes. But on that same note, you know, we'll be able to advise you, and I guess we want to be able to let people know what type of costs are associated, you know, closing costs, especially in land. You know, I think costs vary, but I think land is most times standard, and we look at the standard cost of course, your stamp duty, and of course, we all know that that is based on the island in which you're purchasing on, and it's also a sliding scale based on the purchase price.
Yes.
And we all know that there are lower stamp duties on the outer islands compared to Providence Islands. So that's the stamp duty is one of your closing costs. Your attorney fee is another closing cost. And we always want to point this out to individuals. When you are buying, as a purchaser, you need your own attorney. You need a separate attorney from the person who is selling you the property.
Yes.
Because your attorney is going to look out for your interests, while their attorney is going to look out for their interests. And if you are using the bank to get financing, the bank needs its own attorney.
Yes.
So in most cases, you have 3 attorneys that are involved. Now, if the bank does allow you to use your attorney, that's a bonus.
Yes. Yeah.
However,
sometimes the bank would say, you know, 1 attorney, but if you can use your own,
but if you can use your own, definitely
yes.
you'll get an attorney. And I want to say this about attorneys too. You know, as far as I'm concerned, there isn't any law that I know of that says you must have an attorney. But I've said this over and over. It is the practical thing to do is to get an attorney involved because they save you cost of money.
Yes.
When you think that, oh, an attorney is too expensive, I don't think so, because you have so many qualified attorneys to choose from. And we've said this over and over. You just need to work along with your real estate agent, and they will be able to assist you and point you in the direction of an attorney that can assist you, that may fit within your budget.
Yes.
And I know also of 1 or 2 attorneys who have even went as far as allow people to go on a payment plan. Not that all attorneys do that, but then we as agents try to help you to find the best opportunity in your interest to help you move along with it, instead of saying you don't want the attorney. Because if something happens at the end of the day, the attorney now have to start from scratch and also pick up with all of these things that has already happened when they could have avoided in the first place.
Yes. I always say I've had many people, especially if they're buying lower cost land,
Yeah.
they always think they do not need an attorney for that. But you can just buy a piece of land now and don't get an attorney and thinking it's not costing you anything. And then 10 years from now, you're paying a cost at triple price because of something that you missed during the purchasing process. The attorney, though it could be a little bit expensive depending on what you're buying, will cover you. Will make sure that you get clear title. Will make sure that you understand the terms that are in the sales and purchase agreement. Because what people are not realizing, the sales and purchase agreement is a legal document that is drawn up by an attorney. Unless you are an attorney yourself or you have an attorney mind, a legal mind, you may not understand all the jargon that's in that sales and purchase agreement, and you can sign an agreement where that are not aligned with your interests.
Yes.
You know, having an attorney will ensure that they go through that and make sure that everything that you want is in that sales and purchase agreement, and make sure that if there are any let's say legal ways on the land, that also gets transferred over to you, that everything that you're doing is on an upward and you can get exactly what you want. Not having an attorney can cost you a lot in the long run. I've had people that said they don't want it, but I always advise on getting it, because you never know. And you always want to make sure that everything on there is legit. That if there's anything on the back of that title, that gets to be removed or and whatnot before you purchase that land.
Right. I think that's also back to the same point of where we're talking about each person is responsible for their due diligence.
Due diligence, yes.
The attorney is also that security net, is to reinforce that second due diligence process. So we as real estate agents, we do our due diligence. You as a purchaser must do your due diligence. And I think the attorney seals the deal by doing the further due diligence to ensure that everything is in place to help you have a productive sale. So basically, as we sum this all up, if you're looking at closing costs, if you are buying land, you're looking at basically your stamp duty fee, which is mandatory by the government, your attorney fee, and then most likely there's just a $25 transfer fee. But that's really really what it is.
If you're doing your own due diligence, then you can get a valuation done on the land. Some people opt to do that just to get their own appraisal done. If you're going to the bank, there's no bypassing it, because they're going to do it regardless at a cost to you, to make sure that the value of the land is what it is. And then you ensuring that the stamp duty is paid, because sometimes you can buy a piece of land, you go through all that transaction, that property never gets transferred to your name. And ensure all those things are done. And unless you're someone who has done those things and can do it yourself, definitely make sure that you have an attorney. And also, when you close on your land, something that even very recently, people don't get their own titles. Like, make sure you get a copy of your land register. I found that a few times that I've spoken to people because they want to do something on the land and they're asking me where their title is. Because they either never picked it up or they never applied for it or whatnot. Just make sure you have an actual copy of your title. At closing, you can get it from your attorney. If later on you need an extra copy, $25 at land register, but make sure that you have a copy of your title at hand, on hand at all times.
On that same note, it just reminded me, when you're talking about closing, one of the things that's required, not for you as a purchaser, but the seller responsibility is to provide a survey certificate.
Yes.
So that's not your responsibility as a purchaser. But when sure you are given that survey, I always say, make sure, take that survey, take a trip out to the land, ensure that those boundary marker pins are in place. And the reason for doing it at such an early stage is because you don't want to buy the property today and then you wait till next year and then you come back and you're asking, okay, I can't find out where my property starts or stops, because there could have been anything that would have removed those boundary markers,
especially on the road front.
Especially on the road front, and just to stick a pin, it is illegal to remove boundary markers of anyone's property, and there is a fine if you are caught doing it. So just sticking that pin. But there are sometimes things that happens with traffic. Cars may roll over the markers or anything else. But the point of it is, if you close on a transaction today, go and make sure those markers are in place, because if for any reason it isn't there, even though it was stated that it would be, now you'll be able to go back and have your attorney to make sure enforce that the surveyor put it in place.
Like within the time that everything is happening.
But if you don't do that, you wait so long, they could always say that there had been someone who removed it or find any reasons as to why.
In which case they'll charge you to go and put it back. So now you're doing a survey all over again, where you were giving one free when you were buying the land. So that become an added cost to you.
Yes.
You know, to always, that's a good point. Always ensure that you go by, once your attorney confirms that the survey has been done, then you make sure to go and make sure that those markers are where they say that they are, and that there are indeed markers on the ground. And you know, and those markers have numbers on them, which will be associating with the numbers that's on that survey that you are given.
Yes, and they can verify it, definitely. So we're almost to a close of this show, but I still have one or two more points I want to talk about. Again, if you do have a question, feel free to put it in the comment section. This show is always about getting information to you, but also communicating with you, because it makes no sense us talking. If you do have a question that you would like to know about that we can clarify for you, it is your opportunity to put it in the comment section. So a question that I've had before, is it easy? So now you have a piece of land and you need to move on to the next step. You know, would you say that it's very easy to get building permits after purchasing land on island? Do you think it's an easy process? Because this is something that I think some people sometimes tend to be afraid about and not sure how to maneuver and go about it. You take it. I can always help you. Go ahead.
Yes, it is. It could be easy. It depends. I mean, if you're looking to bring a big development and all of that, then that requires way more logistical things than normal, then it may take you longer period of time to get the permit, because, you know, you might be going back and forth before you can get it. But if you're just building a single family home, with the standard model of what a single family home is on the island, then yes, I believe it is. It's fairly easy. You may have to wait maybe a month, a few weeks, a month or a month and a half, the most 2 months, depending on when they convene to go over your plans. But once you buy your land and you're ready to build, one of the requirements is that you use an on-island architect to build your property for you, and that architect will take it through planning. You know, I've had where people say they're doing their own thing, but you have to go through an architect to make sure you're building up to code, to make sure that everything that's supposed to be there is there, and also because you will need that approval PR number for you to start construction, and the planning department is very serious about that PR number. Like, once you start construction, they want to make sure that that's there, and if it's not, you will come to your land and find a note that says you need to have that up. You know, so once you get your plans done, your architect should be able to take that through planning for you, and of course you also make sure you follow up on that. But I would think at the most, for uncomplicated single family home or duplex or whatnot, you're looking at the most 2 months. But usually within a month, you should have your
I agree, Joe. I think it is very straightforward, and once you, like you said, already have your architect lined up, and it all depends on when he starts the drawing. Planning departments normally meet once a month, so if that drawing meets the monthly meeting, you can get something out in a short period of time. Once you don't have all of those complex drawings that you want to do, that may take you a while. But also sometimes architects may have cookie cutter drawings that they have already done for other people that they can just replicate, and that can help to move the process along faster. So I also too think that the process is straightforward, and it isn't something that you need to beat your head up on as to how long it's going to take, but rather just make sure you have the right architect that you want to work with, and in doing your plans, perhaps just talk to him a little, spend more time consulting with him to make sure that you are designing something that is feasible for you financially, as well as to take care of the needs of what you want the house to be.
Yeah.
I mean, and on that same note, as we wrap it up, I want to ask you, I think that, and preparing yourself for purchasing real estate, there are some key persons and stakeholders that you should align yourself with, whether before or after the sales process, and it includes, one of them is an architect. Once you've already bought, you can align yourself with an architect. But even before, sometimes when you have a property in mind, you can reach out to an architect and say, this is the property I'm thinking about. Would my development be able to fit on this particular land? Would I be able to get the number of units that I want on this land? So that an architect is someone you can consult with before
Well, definitely, yeah. And an architect knows they're part of the rules and regulations and the laws, right? So they'll be able to say, okay, you can get 2 kitchens on here, or you can get 3 kitchens on here, whereas in some places you can't. So even if you're someone who's in the planning stage, then definitely yes, an architect would be one of the first stops to ensure that the dream you have in your head can translate.
Yes.
On the land that you want to put it on. And you can get environmental some environmental people to come over to make sure that depending on what you're doing, as you said before, with the plants and everything, that you can incorporate that into the area when you're building. Get a civil engineer in to ensure that the soil is up for what you want it to be.
Yeah. So yeah, architect I think is very important. I think surveyors are important as well. Yes. Sometimes, because sometimes you feel like you can subdivide in so many pieces that surveyor can help you to decide how to subdivide a land. I think an attorney is someone that you can liaise with before or after.
Yes.
Sometimes, depending on what you want to do, if you want to share a land with someone else and they're not relatives, sometimes you can consult with an attorney about how to work out the terms and conditions.
In that case, you need
before and after. And obviously the bank is someone you want to consult with before you make a move to know if you're qualified.
Yes.
I was trying to make sure I choose that word carefully, because sometimes we say pre-approved, but it's not pre-approval.
It's
pre-qualification.
Yes.
Because you need to make sure you are what type of budget you have and what budget you can spend. And I think also a contractor is someone important.
Oh, definitely.
That you can consult with before you make a decision on making a purchase, and after as well, because sometimes the contractor, depending on the gradient of the land, they can tell you, hey, is this going to cost me a lot more money to build based on adding fill or doing anything like that?
Yes.
So I think these are very key important stakeholders that you should align yourself with when making a purchase or after you've made a purchase. And in most cases, your real estate agent can direct you to many of these persons.
Make recommendations.
Yes. Each of us have our list that we can make recommendations to help you guide you along the process.
Yeah.
So the final question, and this is the hot button question.
Okay.
And most people will normally ask. So we're talking about vacant land. We spoke about how it's really good to invest in vacant land, especially if you are going to hold it for a while, because you are getting a return on your investment when you invest in land.
Yes.
They aren't making any more of it. It's just a very good opportunity. So, Provo is saturated. Where you think is the next big move for purchasing a vacant lot?
North Caicos.
Go ahead.
Well, I mean, that's what I'm gonna say. But definitely, if we are, depending on your price point, Provo is outpriced, right? So what we are seeing a lot of movement going to North Caicos, and like with all the buzzy noise of all the plans that are out there for North and stuff, we're getting the excitement of people that want to be there. And right now in North, you can get a piece of land for under $40,000, and you can't say that in Provo. I have land under $40,000 in North. You can't say that about Provo right now. So depending on what it is that you want to do, definitely. I know a lot of people want to do villas and such. And because of that, they want to be in Provo because that's where mostly everybody comes that are interested and that are coming here for short term. But we're seeing that it's not the same anymore because a lot of people now are splitting a lot of their times between North and Provo, or even going straight there, you know, and we see a lot of excitement with the opening of the airport and everything. And once we start getting some commercial flights and get people moving where they can fly straight into North, then we're thinking that we're going to get a lot more vacationers that want to travel to North. I know people that do short-term rental in North, and they do very well. Even some in Middle Caicos that are doing very well. Yes, it is a ferry ride away, and hopefully soon, you know, flights and stuff. But for me, North Caicos is where I see most people now that are looking for a beginner investment to go. And a lot of people too that want to build their home somewhere more tranquil are thinking of North instead of doing Provo because, you know, we are the big city now. So a lot of people that want a more laid back life are going there. South Caicos is right behind that, I think, at the moment, especially with the new news of commercial flights going there next year. We're finding that a lot of people are now back interested in Bell Sound area and things like that, where you are finding things for under 100,000.
Yeah.
So we're seeing a lot of that, and I think South Caicos has so much potential. It is such a beautiful island, you know, and it just needs some people to go in there and put a lot more life into it. And so we're seeing a lot more people investing in that. But definitely now, anybody that wants to enter into real estate, that just wants something to hold in, because when you're looking at North Caicos, it is what Provo used to be, right, as far as price point. So think about, when you're thinking of investing in North Caicos, think about where you want to be in the next 10 years, not where you are now at the moment.
Yeah.
Because people they're telling me now, man, I wish I had invested in Provo back in the early 2000s, you know. Now this is the early 2000s for North Caicos.
Yeah.
So if you're looking to invest in North and just hold on to it, now is the time to do it, because you can find waterfront properties at such a much cheaper price than you would in Provo. And I mean, look at and it's same beautiful beaches.
Yeah.
Whidbey, Pumpkin Bluff, like all of those beaches are gorgeous. So you don't have to think about, oh, it's Provo. As you can, in North, the ferry ride is what? I used to say it's 30 minutes. This ferry is getting 20. Me there in 15.
Yeah, definitely.
It's much shorter. It's not even 30 minutes. Like 15 minutes, you're from North. I mean, from Provo straight to North. You know, so it's not as much of a traveling to get there.
Yeah,
so.
I think you've made two important points, and I definitely can concur with what you're saying. I think basically I would say both South Caicos and North Caicos is the next best thing. And you know, even before the flight were coming into South Caicos, I just felt that way about South Caicos, and then all of a sudden, bam, flights are coming into South Caicos, and now people are now scrambling to get their feet in the door for South Caicos.
Yes.
My only thing about South Caicos is that I feel where North has a little bit of an advantage over South Caicos is because there aren't as many available plots of land in South Caicos that people can use to invest in.
Yes.
Right? Whereas North Caicos has a lot of inventory where you can have more people accessing it through the market. I would say to persons that even though you don't see the physical, yes, the flight is coming to South Caicos, so this is going to be something tangible you can see. But when it comes to North Caicos, you may not see it physically with your eyes, but if you listen to us realtors speak, and there are lots of things that are happening in silent mode, but are actually building up. For example, there are businesses that have started buying properties and moving their businesses from Provo to North Caicos. So you haven't seen it, but it is happening. People are buying to open grocery stores, to open laundromats, to open hardware stores. I'm not just talking out of my head. These are things that are silently happening. And you don't want to wait until you just see the building going up and then you be like, well, what is that?
But that's when the prices are going up.
That's when the prices are going to go up. And there are lots of developers who are actually snooping around and who have already actually planted seed and have purchased larger parcels of land in North Caicos with the intention of building.
Yes.
It is just working out the dynamics to get it from the ground up.
Yeah.
But there are things that are happening, and I feel that if you are a person who have lived in North Caicos, who have a home in North Caicos, I think this is time to start making your mark and preparing yourself for what is
coming. Yeah.
We have been preaching this for a while, and I feel like it is coming. And when it happens, we don't want you to be left behind.
Yeah.
And I want to say this to you. I know we as local people would say that we have generational properties, which is a good thing. But generational property has sat, and that's exactly what it is, from generation to generation to generation.
Yes.
And if you don't have someone who's going to stand in the forefront and get it sorted out to be able to give you a portion of that, you want to start looking at other methods to be able to get into the real estate market and get something now while it is affordable.
Yeah.
Think about it. How could you find a commercial lot in Providenciales at $95,000? You can find a commercial lot in North Caicos for that price.
Yes, exactly.
So if you are a business owner, these are things you want to think about. Or if you are thinking about creating a business over there, then this is what you want to do. Find those commercial lots. And
there's so many things that are needed right now
that you can get, because there is a clean slate. Now, definitely we want North Caicos to grow, but in a responsible way. And we don't want North Caicos to be the city like Providenciales. But there are lots of opportunities in North Caicos that is available. And I feel like it is the next step up and the next thing. And a lot of investors are realizing it. And we don't want others to miss out on the opportunity. And that's why I continue to ask this question, to put it in the forefront of other people so that they could realize, hey, let me see how I can tap into this before I am left behind.
Yep, definitely. No, for me, like, even if you're someone that has traveled to North over the past few years, the changes. I mean, when you go now, you know, everywhere, the construction, the amount of people that are there. And one thing that I'm loving is the fact that, I agree with what you said. We don't want North to become like overcrowded and whatever like we are now. But enough properties and enough development that allows for jobs for the people that are there, or even some of the people that have to travel to Provo or other islands for work, when they would love to just stay home. You know, so that for me is one of the most exciting parts, and seeing that it's allowing to bring more jobs to North Caicos, so that people can in middle, so that people can stay home and be able to enjoy their home. Because when you talk to somebody from North Caicos, they want to be home.
Exactly.
They don't want to be anywhere but North Caicos. You know, they tolerate us, but they want to be they want to be home. They want to come here, do whatever, but then they're back on that ferry. So just seeing that, you know, there's there are going to be opportunities there where they don't have to travel to Provo to shop or to do whatever, and they can do it at home. I think it's exciting. There's so many plans, as you said, for North. It's the talks I'm hearing. It's exciting what's happening in North, and the fact that the prices are still low is great, because prices are increasing over there. People are not seeing it because it's happening slowly, but it is increasing. We're seeing land prices are going up slowly, but they are slowly going up. So if you are interested in purchasing in North Caicos at an affordable price, and by affordable I mean anything under $30,000-$40,000, now is the time. And even if you don't want to live there, you'll be fine, because buy it and hold on to it. Because think about when you wanted when you thought you should have bought in Long Bay and didn't. That's what North Caicos is right now.
Yes, definitely. So on that note, I just want to wrap it up. Thank you so much, Rose, for being a part of this show. It's always a pleasure to have a conversation with you. But before I say my final thank you, I just want to say and announce to everyone, please stay connected and tune into Let's Talk TCI Real Estate. Over the next 2 weeks or so, I will be having someone from the Crown Land Unit Department on to talk about the Crown Land Amnesty, and I feel like this is a very important topic, especially for those who have CPLs, conditional purchase lease with the government. You want to be able to understand what you can do, how you can tap into the amnesty. You want to know who qualify, who don't qualify. So this is a subject that is coming to you soon on Let's Talk TCI Real Estate. So please like and share the page, and remember to tell others to share the page so when we speak about it, you can get the information firsthand. And also, I'm looking forward to having the planning department on the show as well, where they're going to be talking about the rezoning of certain parcels. They have been going around doing island consultations, talking about the rezoning and how the national development plans, there may be some amendments, and they want your input. So this is also a very important conversation, you know, just the surface of it, that I think is going to be very beneficial to us as persons living on the island, for us who have also purchased already, to know how our parcels of land would be impacted. So stay locked into Let's Talk TCI Real Estate as we bring the professionals to you, and make sure you have your questions on standby so that you can get those questions answered. Again, I would say thank you so much, Rose. I look forward to having you again. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you for having me. I will look forward to the 5th time.
Great. And for my listening audience, it's always a pleasure to have you with us. And I appreciate your support on Let's Talk TCI Real Estate. Remember, this is a show about everything educational about real estate in the Turks and Caicos. And if there's ever a topic you will want me to talk about, I am more than willing to talk about it. Just always put it in the comment section, and I will do my best, even if it means me sitting here and just bringing that information to you, because this is an educational platform for us all. So until next time, I continue to say to you, stay safe and remain blessed. Have a very good evening, and thank you for watching.
The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed on this show belong solely to Let's Talk TCI Real Estate, and not that of Keller Williams TCI or any of its affiliates. Any action you take upon the information provided on this show is strictly at your own risk, and Let's Talk TCI Real Estate guest or host will not be liable for any losses and damages in connection with the use of the material. I am not an investment advisor, broker, or dealer.